Hey folks, James Abrenio here, owner of Abrenio Law, your Northern Virginia personal injury and criminal defense law firm. In this video, I wanted to take time to answer a question that I get a lot. James, I was involved in a car accident and I want to know, what can I actually claim for compensation for the injuries, the inconvenience, the pain that I incurred? So in this video, we're going to walk you through that and hopefully you'll find it useful. Before we begin though, I want to make sure to let you know, if you find this information useful, go ahead and subscribe to the Abrenio Law YouTube page. We're constantly updating with information at www.abreniolaw.com. Our website, we have a ton of articles and videos as well. And make sure to go ahead and share this video. I want to make sure that as many people are able to see it as possible. Our goal as a law firm is also to provide the community free information that will help them in their own situations to make the best decisions about their circumstances. So when we talk about what you're able to claim in your car accident case, we first want to kind of hone in. And the first issue is there's really two things in every car accident claim, at least here in Virginia, that you're going to be fighting about. The first is liability. So before we get to talking about what you can sue for, the first issue is really a threshold matter. Can you prove that the defendant, the person that caused your car accident, is actually liable for the damages that they caused? Are they actually liable for what you want to claim compensation for? And in Virginia, this issue is particularly important because we apply something called contributory negligence. And this is something that a lot of people are always surprised about whenever I talk to them. And what contributory negligence means is, if you are 99% not at fault, if the defendant is 99% at fault for your accident, but you're just 1% at fault, you're going to actually be barred from recovery. Stated another way, if you caused any reason, if you had any contribution to your accident at all, you're going to lose. So before we talk about what you can actually be compensated for, you've always got to recognize that if liability is an issue in your case, that's something that you're going to have to talk to your attorney about, because no matter how badly you're injured, no matter how many damages you have, if you can't prove liability in your case, you may be out of luck. So liability is something that you really need to be aware of and talking with your attorney about. Now, the second issue is really what the meat of this video is. It's damages. What's your case worth? What can you claim? And in order to do that, first of all, we want to define what damages are. And simply put, it's the money that you're asking for, okay? Now, civil lawsuits, what we're doing in court, they can't take away your pain. They can't heal you. The best that we can do is try to compensate you for the injuries that you were forced into. What I like to say is it's really payment for the job that you never asked for, okay? Think about it that way. A lot of times I get pushback from individuals. They'll call me and they'll say, James, look, I'm not the kind of person to sue. I don't like to talk to attorneys, but I just want to be compensated. I want to be clear. Most of my clients that call, this is the first time that they've ever had to deal with litigation, so I'm the one walking them through the process. Most of my clients are like you. They're just average folks trying to live their life, and then because of the negligence of somebody else, they were injured many times very severely, and it's had huge impacts on their life. So pursuing a personal injury case doesn't make you evil. It makes you essentially just trying to live your life and move on, and allowing you to be compensated is a way to do that. Now, in order to define what is compensable, what can you actually claim in your car accident case, and frankly, any injury case in Virginia, Virginia has developed something called the model rules of jury instructions. And for you non-lawyers, jury instructions are really what the judge instructs the jury about the law in a case. So there are specific jury instructions here in Virginia, and these slides, we're going to walk through them individually, but they really list out specifically what the law says you're allowed to claim for in your personal injury case, in your car accident case. So the first prong is any bodily injury sustained and their effect on your health according to the degree and probable duration. Really what that means is, what physical injuries did you suffer? And how long will that affect your life? That's something that the jury should be considering. That's something that you're going to be asking to be compensated for in your personal injury case. The second is any physical pain and mental anguish suffered in the past and that may be expected to suffer in the future. And think of it, it's a little bit different. It may be hard to distinguish, but physical pain and mental anguish, that's actually the mental distress that you're going through. So let's think about it this way. You fractured a wrist because of a car accident. Well, there's the actual injury, that's the first prong, the bodily injury, but then the second prong deals with the physical pain and then the mental anguish. So the pain you're actually going through, the mental anguish of not being able to use that arm in that example. Before we move on, one of the things that oftentimes people ask me, well, James, how do you put a number to physical pain, to mental anguish, to bodily injuries? And I want to be clear, this video is never going to provide you a specific number. A fractured wrist is worth X, a broken kneecap is worth Y. A lot of it's really going to depend on the circumstances of the case. And you as the jury, you as the person watching this is going to be in a lot more line with a jury member than I will, because most jurors are not attorneys. So I always tell people when they ask me, well, what is a fractured wrist worth? I ask them, if you're sitting on a jury and it wasn't your case, it's somebody you didn't know, and you heard the facts that were similar to your case, what would you award them? So this is more of an art, not a science, but I'm just laying out the specific prongs that you can claim for. The next is any inconvenience caused in the past and that will probably be caused in the future. So perfect example, you fractured that wrist, now you've had to drive to the hospital and you can't now go to your cousin's birthday party, or you miss a wedding because you're laid up in bed. Those kinds of everyday inconveniences due to the accident. The next type of damage, any medical expense incurred in the past and any expenses you should expect to incur in the future. So these are where the raw numbers come down. Literally, how many dollars did the hospital charge for that X-ray, MRI day in the hospital? And with this, I want to be clear, because there's a bit of confusion when we talk about medical expenses and we're talking about medical bills. At least here in Virginia, whenever you go to the hospital or the doctor, you'll see an actual retail list of the bills. So let's say there's a $100 bill for getting a knee exam. When your health insurance, if you're lucky enough to have health insurance, pays, they're probably going to be paying a negotiated rate down. So on your explanation of benefits, you'll see $100 for the bill. You'll see that Aetna or Cigna or Blue Cross paid $40, and maybe you did a $5 copay. When we're talking about the medical bills that you're going to be claiming in this car accident case, we're going to be talking about the retail list of the bills. So what did the hospital actually bill you? What did your orthopedist bill you? There's always a lot of confusion I get from clients because they're not quite sure what number we're talking about, but yes, it's the retail list of the bill. The next prong is any lost earnings due to an inability to work at your calling. Essentially, if you can't go to work because of the accident, you can't go to trial and you're a trial attorney, or you can't go paint fences because you're a fence painter, you can't go do surgery because you're a surgeon, you're going to be able to claim lost earnings in the car accident case. The next is loss of earnings and lessening of earning capacity. And really what that means is the earning capacity prong is a little bit of a misnomer. It's a little bit imprecise, but I like to say it's really your loss of choice. And this is really going to be in the more serious cases. So let's go back to the example of a surgeon. Let's say you end up fracturing your wrist. And now you can no longer do surgeries. Well, you're going to actually be able to make a separate claim, not just of lost specific dollars of earnings, but there's a value in you now no longer being able to do what you want to do. So if you wanted to be a surgeon and you no longer can do that, well, there's value in that. I once had somebody that was actually, they were a beer truck delivery person, so a very blue-collar work. Great guy. He just loved delivering beer. He loved his job. He loved his coworkers. Injured his back, and he could no longer lug around kegs of beer, so he ended up getting a corporate job. He actually made more money in the corporate job, but there was value in his loss of choice, loss of earning capacity to do what he loved to do. So we were able to claim for that, and that was well within under Virginia law. Now, a couple points that I want to make. So we just went over the prongs, but there's a few questions that often comes up. One is future medical expenses. Many times I'll have individuals that they've been injured They just want to put the case behind them, so they want to claim for the medical bills that they've already had. But they also want to say, James, I also may have to get surgery in a year or two. I may have to get additional physical therapy, those kinds of things. In order to get value for damages in a case, you've got to be able to prove it. So us giving an insurance company, especially if we're talking about trying to settle a case outside of court in negotiations, you've got to be able to demonstrate that future treatment is going to happen more likely than not. Possible treatment in the future, concerns about treatment in the future, you're likely not going to get value for that, particularly if you're trying to settle outside of court. If we're presenting your case in front of a jury, the defense attorney may be able to exclude that from evidence, because unless we can show to more likely not standard and really a doctor saying to a reasonable degree of medical probability that you're going to need that treatment, many times the judges will kick that evidence out. So you can't really just speculate about what you may have to get. It's got to be legitimate, tangible future expenses. As far as lost wages, I oftentimes get the question, well, James, I was getting ready to get a job and then the accident happened. Well, you have to be able to prove that you actually lost work, you lost the job. And under Virginia law, it's really, you have to essentially have a contract in hand. So if you have prospective job possibilities, but you haven't gotten a job offer, it's going to be very difficult to claim that under Virginia law. It's really got to be a tangible job that you're already working at, or you've already essentially been hired for it. Now, another thing is lost wages. You can't claim for another person. So many times I'll get a husband or wife, significant others, where their significant other, husband or wife, was injured, so they then take off for their job to help care for that individual. Under Virginia law, that spouse or that significant other taking off work, you, the injured party, can't claim for that under Virginia law. It's just not a compensable damage aspect of Virginia law. Look, I disagree with it, but that's just the way the law is, so it's something to keep in mind. Now, another thing when we're talking about damage is what you can claim for in your personal injury case. I want to be clear, because I do get a pushback about this a lot. The defense is going to have a right to investigate your claims. They're not just going to assume what you're saying is true. So what I mean by that is they're not going to take your word for it. So we're going to have to provide medical records if we're going to try to settle your case outside of a trial. We're going to have to provide medical records of your injuries, and many times not just the records for your treatment, but if let's say you've got a knee injury and you need a knee surgery, many times they're going to call for prior treatment records to demonstrate that your surgery, your injury that you're claiming in this car accident wasn't actually really due to a pre-existing issue. Recently I had a case where a lady was injured. She was already going to have knee surgery and claim, but if we had tried to make that knee claim surgery part of the case, if we weren't required to give them prior medical records, they would have no way of knowing that. So in order to establish that, I know that if we ever get into litigation, they're going to have a right to access to prior medical records. So if there's any question there, we're likely going to have to provide that even in settlement negotiations, because if we don't show good faith, if we're not giving them the information they need in order to evaluate their claim, they're just going to deny the claim, and then we're going to have to go into litigation anyway. As far as lost wages, they're, again, not just going to take your word for it. So we have to provide written documentation demonstrating your lost wages. This oftentimes involves prior tax records to demonstrate prior earnings. Many times it'll require actual documentation for your job. And I will say that many people oftentimes, they push back on this, say, James, I feel like I'm on trial here. Why do I have to give so much information? They're the ones who caused my injury. But I always tell them, look, if you are being sued by somebody and somebody's asking for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, you as the defendant, you as the accused person would want a right to investigate, and it would be fair. It would be fair for you not just to have to take their word for it. So in the same token, they're going to have a right to investigate our claim, and I'm not just letting them investigate the claim out of the goodness of my heart. Also, I know that if we ever get into litigation, the court's going to allow it, and what I don't want to do is essentially be counterproductive in negotiations by denying information prior to getting into litigation, which I know they have a right to do to investigate the claim, thereby causing them to not actually negotiate with me, because they're going to say, James, If you don't give me any medical records or any lost wages documentations, I'm just not going to respond to your settlement offer. So it makes no sense to hold that until litigation and then not have any productive means of negotiations towards settlement prior to filing suit, prior to litigation. That being said, look, if you've taken the position, I don't even want to try to negotiate settlement, I just want to go to court and we've talked and that sounds like a good plan, then we'll do that. But just be clear, if you want to settle your case prior to litigation particularly, they're going to have a right to investigate this information. Now, if you have any other questions, make sure to reach out to Abrenio Law. Here's my information here. It's www.abreniolaw.com. There's my email address, james@abreniolaw.com. Phone number 703-570-4180. As you can see, we're on social media, and we're all over Facebook. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. All that information is there. And hopefully you found this video useful. Again, if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to us. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's #Abreniolaw.com. Again, you can follow us on Twitter. We're at @abreniolaw.com, and in Facebook at Abrenio Law. We kind of kept it pretty simple. But if you found this useful also, make sure to share this video. Again, I want as many people seeing this as possible. My goal is not just to help clients, it's to help the community, help your friends and family. Somebody's probably having questions that I'm answering here. So if you found this useful, go ahead and share it. Thanks a lot. Look forward to seeing you in future videos. And if you have any other questions, reach out to me. A lot of times I use questions that I'm posed in order to create videos. So I may end up answering a question for you. Thanks a lot.